You know the feeling when you see something out of the corner of your eye, or when you look out into the dark and one of the shadows moves? If you enjoy the feeling of goosebumps crawling over your arms or down your spine, then you're going to like the following cemetery horror stories. And be sure to stick around until the end of the video for something truly hair-raising. Before anyone comments that this story isn't true, just remember, you don't know everything. This happened to me many years ago. I'm 35, and I still have nightmares about what went down. This happened way back in 2001, when I was 12 years old. I was the only girl out of 3 kids, and also the youngest. My brothers never bullied me though, but they did prank me a lot since they were identical twins. My aunt, uncle, and 4 cousins stayed in a small college town in the Western Cape, South Africa. The town isn't the problem at all. It's the location of the house. They stayed up against a hill, right in the middle of 2 cemeteries. I remember my uncle saying that the house used to belong to the groundskeeper before he disappeared off the face of the earth. As it happens in every small town on Earth, stories started spreading, and a couple of urban legends and ghost stories started making the rounds. One of them turned out to be true. December of 2001 rolled around, and my parents drove us all down there to go visit my aunt and uncle. Their house wasn't very big, so with 7 kids there, the adults told us to go play outside until dinner time. I remember we had a seriously fun time. Then one night after dinner, we decided to play hide and seek. Where? Well, the cemetery, of course. We all knew the different stories about the place, since my brothers made sure to tell the scariest ones to us at night before bedtime. When it was time to go and hide, I was super scared to go into that dark cemetery all by myself. Obviously, already on edge, every single little sound made me jump, and I tried my best not to scream. I didn't want to be the first one to be found. I came across a gravestone that was an angel sitting on a bench type of setup. I went to go sit by the angel's feet, hoping that I would blend in. As I'm sitting there, I see the black figures of the others running around looking for a hiding place. The countdown ends, and the search began. As I sat there, I saw someone's shadow run past me, and I nearly screamed. I think I made a little gasping noise because I remember the shadow stopped. Then it started moving towards me, and I was sure my hiding spot had been found. That's when I heard a man whisper my name, right above my head. I screamed so loud that I instantly had a headache. I jumped up and started running, and ran straight into one of my brothers. He grabbed me, laughing, and told me to calm down. It was just my other brother. I looked at him while he was laughing, looking towards my hiding spot. I saw the color drain from his face. I whipped around to see what had scared him. Then I saw it. There, by the angel, stood my other brother, grinning from ear to ear. Just behind him stood a tall, dark figure of a man. We started screaming. My other brother turned around. He started screaming. The man shoved him to the ground and stood over him, and he had something in his hand. He looked up at us and screamed, "Get out of my cemetery!" Then turned around and disappeared into the night. A week later, they found the groundskeeper on the beach with a scythe clutched in his hand. You know all those old graveyard stories? Well, I finally have one of my own to tell. So, I'm 19, a skinny guy, looking for a girlfriend. Not easy since all the girls seem to want the buff gym guys. Even more difficult since most of my friends are the buff gym guys. But they're great friends and they always set me up on dates. Unfortunately, a lot of these girls are just not that into me. Or they're 2 notes short of the Looney Tunes. I know the right girl is out there, so I haven't given up. But I very nearly did. I live in Clarence, South Africa. Sometimes we get snow, and then it's a big deal. People actually follow the weather forecasts very closely and then descend on our town when snow is forecasted. Normally it happens during August. I grew up here and I still don't understand why our snow is anything more special than snow anywhere else, but whatever. I don't mind. I get to meet a lot of new people since I work in my dad's shop. We sell locally made stuff like wooden canes, blankets, rugs, dream catchers, paintings, a lot of touristy stuff. Well, it just so happened to snow this year, and every guest house was fully booked. It also snowed more than usual, which was really cool. I was helping people in the shop, telling them about our town, talking about the art and other handmade things that we sold, when she walked in. My jaw nearly dropped straight through the floor all the way to China. She had flaming red hair, which you could see was all natural. Nothing out of a box. Her skin was like porcelain. Her smile. My dad teased me after she left that I sounded like Shakespeare while describing her. What I couldn't describe, though, was her eyes. You might expect me to say they were green or blue or brown. But they were black. I mean so absolutely black that you couldn't distinguish the iris from the pupil. Later that night, I met up with my friends at Post House Restaurant, and we had some drinks at the bar. She walked in, and my friends had pretty much the same reaction that I had earlier that day. Then she started walking over to us, and I assumed she was going to chat with one of the boys. But her attention was on me. They basically pushed me outside with her, and we chatted until closing time. Then she asked me if I could take her somewhere where she could see the stars. The best place for that is the local graveyard. So of course I took her to the graveyard, parked the car, and then we found a bench and sat down. We're sitting there gazing up at the stars when suddenly I feel a chill run through my entire body, as cold as it was outside. That's the type of cold iciness I felt literally running through me. I turned to look at her, and this chick is staring at me with those black eyes. Unblinking, she started smiling at me and then whispered, "This is where we'll stay forever." I bolted. I nearly crashed my car as I sped away, leaving her right there in the graveyard. I didn't see her the next day or any day thereafter. Did I overreact? Maybe. But I was not going to stick around to find out. 78 female here, and probably too old to be on this app, but I'm pretty tech savvy thanks to my grandkids. My little Henrietta, who's 16, told me to tell my story on here, and she's helping me with the slang. Well, I've been on this earth for quite a while, and I've seen some strange things in my time, but this one thing definitely stands out in my memory. Back in 1961, I was a 16-year-old tomboy living on a farm just outside Alberton, Johannesburg. I hated going to school, where my mother was also a teacher. I preferred spending my days walking around on the farm, looking at all the animals I came across, and sometimes taking photos of them. I had a nice camera with a leather pouch, which I had received as a Christmas gift. Back then, Alberton wasn't the bustling city that it is now. There were still a lot of wild animals roaming the hills and ridges. My mother also didn't like me walking around on the farm alone, because there were also leopards. My father countered this by giving me a rifle that used to belong to my grandfather. Mother still wasn't happy, but she knew she couldn't stop me. I used to also walk along the road leading up to our house, which passed by our family's grave plot. I would often pull weeds and cut the grass inside the plot. I liked to keep it neat. One night, a friend was visiting me, and I suggested that we walk around a bit. Certain animals only came out at night, like the porcupines and jackals. We walked all the way down to the grave plot, and I decided to try and photograph some of the headstones. The moon shone on their light gray surfaces so beautifully. As I was taking a couple of photos, my friend suddenly shushed me. I turned around to look at her, and her eyes were so wide that you could see the white of her eyes all the way around the iris. Of course, I immediately thought that she had spotted a leopard, and I panicked. I didn't have my rifle with me. I turned around to see what she was looking at, and my blood ran cold. Just outside of the grave plot stood a soldier. He seemed to be covered in something dark, but I couldn't figure out if it was mud or something more sinister. In his hands, he held a rifle with a bayonet tip. He looked like he walked straight out of a war. He started walking towards us very quickly. We screamed and took off running back up to the house. All the way up, we could hear his feet pounding behind us. When we got to the house, my father was standing on the porch with his rifle in his hands. He told the man to stop or he would shoot. Then he lowered his gun and furrowed his brow. We turned around just in time to see that soldier disappearing into the night. Some people said that it was a man that had suffered a mental break, but other people said it was a ghost. I can't say which is true. They never found him. But either way, I was completely shaken, and I didn't go on my usual walks for many years. Those who shared these stories are still haunted by them to this day, and maybe now you'll think twice before entering a cemetery at night. Just wait until you click here to see what else goes bump in the night, waiting to horrify you.